Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Craig and this is the Grow Paradise Garden. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you around my greenhouse, which is full of tropical style plants and tens of plants that need a little bit of extra protection. And they're in there because at this time of year in the UK, even in the south of the UK where we are getting nighttime temperatures that are below freezing. We've had several nights now that are at -3 degrees Celsius, followed by intense heavy rainfall that caused quite severe flooding locally, but our garden was resilient and then we didn't experience any flooding here. And then we've had mild temperatures. So the weather is all over the place, but it's been nice and consistent in the greenhouse. So I'm going to show you some of the plants there that I've never featured on the Grow Paradise YouTube channel before. And one of them's flowering, and it's a plant I've been searching for ages, and I needed it to flower, so I knew it was the plant that I was looking for. So this is the Grow Paradise greenhouse. It's a standard domestic greenhouse. It's only 6 foot by 8 foot in length. It's got a relatively high roof, but not as high as I'd have liked because I've had to leave some of the larger tender plants outside. And it's where I overwinter those larger plants. Plants like this Musa cheesemanii banana that I've grown from seed, and it just needs a little bit of extra protection. Behind me, I've got some Abutilons, angel trumpets, that's Brugmansia plants. There's so many just weird and wonderful plants. But it's also where we grow stock for the Grow Paradise online shop, which is closed at this time of year because we're doing some technical upgrades on the website, but it also gives us an opportunity to sort through the plants that we're propagating. We love to produce as many homegrown plants as we possibly can in this space. So I'll move some of these bigger plants so that we can see all around the greenhouse. I'll grab the camera and I will give you a full tour of what's growing in the Grow Paradise tropical style greenhouse. Right, let's take this coat off and I'll grab the camera and show you around. Okay, so this is the greenhouse with the larger plants moved out. I'm going to give you a tour from left higher shelves. We'll go round to the right and then we'll come down to these lower shelves and anything that might be underneath the benches. And then hopefully I won't miss anything. So first is our aeoniums. Now this is our own cuttings for our homegrown plants. Aeoniums are super easy to propagate from cuttings. I've done a couple of videos now showing you how to do that, and I'll put links in the top corner and in the description. So if you want to have a go at propagating your own aeonium plants, you can do that. Now there's 3 varieties at the moment that I'm propagating. This is Aeonium Red Edge, which grows with so many branches. You can see this cutting's already branched out, and obviously it's got these red edges to the leaves which earn it its name. Just beside that is one that was new to me this year, and it's been really, really good. This is Aeonium Cornish Pixie. Now this is a Cornish cultivar, and it doesn't grow with enormous rosettes like some of the others do, but it forms a really nice mound, and for some reason slugs and snails haven't touched this cultivar at all, and it's been quite cold resilient. So I've left one outside with a little bit of protection, but this is all of the cuttings I've taken of Aeonium Cornish Pixie. I'm hoping to spread a few more around my garden, as well as adding lots of these to the online shop. And you can see there's roots popping out of the bottom of the pots now. So these, when the shop reopens in 2024, will be available to order online for delivery across the UK. And just over from that is all of my homegrown Bromeliads. Now there's a mix of Acmea, Neoregelia, and Bilbergia, yes. These are all pups off the main plants. A lot of them were these plants that are hanging on the top of the greenhouse, and the pups were produced off of the side like they are here, and you just chop them off, and I'm putting them into these tiny, tiny little plastic pots just to form some roots. They don't really need to be in pots at all, but it helps to keep them upright. And then I'll be selling hopefully lots of Bromeliad cultivars on the online shop in 2024. And just at the back here is my prickly pear. Now this is a hardy prickly pear. It's a Puntia humifusa, and this one grows horizontally rather than upright like the majority of prickly pears. This will tolerate snow, ice, frosts. All that happens is in winter, the leaves go a bit crinkly like this, and they might go a purpley sort of colour. In spring and summer, it quickly recovers and continues to grow. Now there's 3 plants here that I'm going to use as stock plants for propagation, and this was really popular on the online shop this year, so we're going to be adding more in the 2024 season. But you can see at the back, I've kept one for myself that's actually growing one of its prickly pear fruits. It's this red colour. I'm hoping it's going to swell a bit more because there's not much to eat there, but I'm looking forward to giving that a go. Here's another Aeonium. This is Aeonium Fiesta, a variegated Aeonium. I lost kind of the bulk of my main plant, so this was a last ditch attempt to save it, and I'm pleased to say it looks as though it's rooted, and I'm going to be able to save this plant and add it to my collection again. Now those larger Aeoniums I was telling you about are ones like these. These were all cuttings, but they grow much larger than the ones I showed you earlier. Here we've got a mix. There's Aeonium Velo, which flushes purple in sunlight, and it goes this green sort of colour at this time of year when the days are shorter. We've got Aeonium Pomegranate, Aeonium Cyclops in there somewhere, and this is Aeonium Cornish Rose. And again, it's a nice purple leaved one, but you can see it branches really, really freely. And this was new to the garden this year, so I'm pleased I've managed to take a cutting that's worked, because I lost most of them to slugs and snails. And that bright purple flower that's probably catching your eye is Tibicina erviliana. I'm hoping that flower was close to going. But look at the colour of those petals. It's almost iridescent. Now this is a shrub I've always struggled to overwinter. It doesn't survive in my garden. I've seen gardens down in the south of England, in Cornwall, where this plant thrives outdoors all year round, and they get masses of these bright purple flowers. And I'm a bit envious of that. But so far, this one is surviving. I think the trick is just to keep it a lot drier. Now in front of that is a Brassioopsis mitis that got a bit hit by cold. This one is still growing in a pot, and I'm figuring out what to do with this. So keep your eyes peeled, because it may become available in the future. Behind that is my Cyphomandria betacium, which is the tamarillo plant, or tree tomato, and it's a really good foliage plant, but it will produce edible fruits about the size of an egg that are quite bitter, and they're made into chutneys in South America, I believe. Here is a alocasia I was gifted by Michael, a friend of mine who runs Misfit Plants, and it's been really good, and I'm going to pot it up next spring, try and make it a feature in the garden in perhaps a Tibetan style pot. Oh God, I just got caught on that. The amount of times that's happened. Just next to that is another colocasia. This is Colocasia Pharaoh's Mask, one of those really desirable plants that I managed to source quite a lot of last year and sell through the online shop. And this is just developing its signature kind of recurved leaves with that 3-dimensional ribbing, and the colours are looking fantastic as well. And next to that is an Abutilon. Now, although these will actually take a lot of the cold that I experience in the garden, they never seem to recover as quickly in spring, and because I'm on heavy clay soil, these plants hate to be waterlogged. They like free draining soil. So by growing them in the greenhouse through winter and keeping them in containers with a well-drained mix, for me, they thrive a lot better. But I have been speaking to people that grow them outdoors in the UK all year round, planted out into their gardens, and they grow really well. But for me, these have to be grown in pots, and they flower so much better if they get a bit of protection in winter. Now, this stump, it's not much to look at, but this is that giant salvia that isn't a salvia, but it's got giant leaves and salvia-like flowers. It's Subulagurica brillantasia, or the other way around. Next to that, looks like a dandelion. This is the tree dandelion, Sonchus fruticosus, that I grew from seed. I did have one in the garden a couple of years back, and I lost it to the cold. So I'm protecting this one in a pot through winter, and I'll plant it out in spring. This really nice leaf is Ceteria palmifolia, the palm grass. It's got beautiful corrugation on the leaves, and it grows just sort of this sort of height, about 60 centimetres, maybe up to a metre, and it looked great planted out in the garden. I've left the plant out to test it for hardiness, and I'm going to try and add more of these to my own tropical style garden as well as to the Grow Paradise shop this year. I've managed to save some seeds from my garden, so hopefully the fresh seeds will germinate and we'll have lots of plants available for you all. There's some Brugmansia cuttings here. This is a new cultivar that I'm adding to my garden. I say new, it's actually one of the oldest available. It's Charles Grimaldi, and it's a hybrid, so it's said to be one of the most reliable flowering Brugmansia, because I want loads of flowers in the garden next year, and this will produce yellowy orange flowers en masse. Maybe not this year because the cuttings have got a lot of growing to do, but there's 3 of these. I'm going to try and grow them in huge containers to create a really stunning display over the next few years. Down here is Cuphea insignis, or the cigar plant. This is still flowering even in December with a bit of protection in the greenhouse, and it's producing a lot of seed. This is a great colourful plant for underplanting your larger shrubs, so I'm hoping I can produce a lot of these homegrown plants for you all in the Grow Paradise shop. This is something I don't think I've shown on the channel before. Now, I've grown these from seed, and again I'll be growing lots more from seed for the Grow Paradise shop. This is Phytolacca and a cultivar called Lacca Boom. Now, Phytolacca sometimes has the common name of American pokeweed, but this particular cultivar is really nice because it has these bright pink flowers followed by dark berries that are held high above this pinky purple foliage. So it makes a really good companion plant against the greens because it adds a bit of colour. And I think I really like the pairing of this with this Colocasia Redemption. Now, Redemption is the Colocasia that has this amazing black glossy leaf and pink veination. And you can see that the pink veination is just starting to form on this one. So I've brought it into the greenhouse just to guarantee that it survives till next year, because I'd love to share that coloration with you all. So Phytolacca, Lacca Boom and Colocasia Redemption. At the back is one of my biggest bromeliads. This is Aechmea blanchettiana, and this is the orange form. Now, in sunlight it flushes bright orange, but at this time of year it's starting to revert to a more greeny colour. Now, I've tucked it under the bench here because it's underneath plants that don't need a lot of water, and it's happy just to stay there, sort of receiving a bit of tough love through winter. But as soon as it's warm enough, it'll go back outside into full sun to colour up beautifully. Next to that is Canna Cleopatra. This is the one with the burgundy streaks through the leaves, and it has bicoloured flowers, red and yellow flowers. This is a really nice plant. Now, I've kept this one because I'm going to use it for propagation to multiply our stock and hopefully add more to the Grow Paradise shop next year. Behind that is a load of Bilbergia plants. Again, these are Bromeliads that I've propagated from pots, the offshoots, that I'll be adding to the online shop for sale. I absolutely love Bromeliads. They give you so much colour with very, very little effort. And next to that, these sorry looking plants are a plant that I've been after for years, and I've never managed to source the correct plant. I've been sold the plant I've been looking for, but it's always been mislabelled. Now, this is Justicia carnea, and it's the yellow flowering form, or rare. And the amount of times I've bought this and I've waited for it to bloom and it comes out a pink purple sort of colour, but this one is actually blooming it in yellow. So the seller, I'm so grateful, has labelled it properly and is selling the correct plant. Now, I'll admit, the leaves have seen better days. There's obviously been attacked by slugs, snails. It was covered in aphids when I received it, but they're in rehab. I'm nursing them back to health, and they're next to the propagator here, so they get all of the ambient warmth to help them get through winter. Now, the high shelf on the right hand side, I've got some Lobelia bambusettii just growing on. Again, I'll put this into a big pot in spring and it will grow very, very countly. Some seedlings of Musa wollastonii here as backup plants, and in case I lose the one that's growing in the garden. A couple more young Phytolacca Lacca Booms, and Begonia luxurians. Now, a lot of you try and grow Begonia luxurians and you bring it indoors for winter. This begonia, although it likes warmth, absolutely hate being indoors, whether it's the central heating or the changeable temperatures, I don't know, but they always shrivel up. If you've got somewhere that's just above 0 degrees and has constant temperature, they seem so much happier there. I've actually seen them survive outside in frost-free gardens in the UK. So don't bring them inside, put them on your porch if you don't have a radiator there, maybe a conservatory if it's unheated, or in just the warmest spot you can find outside with a bit of extra protection, and it's likely to be happier, unless the ambient temperature drops well below 0. Now these pots are cuttings of that beautiful vine-leaved salvia that I grew in the garden this year with the blue flowers. It's Salvia cerboana, and I'm pleased to say that these rooted really well in water, and I've just potted them up now into well-drained potting mix, and they're growing away. I haven't checked the roots actually recently. No roots popping out the bottom yet, but we'll give it time. I'm just going to keep them in the greenhouse, which is kept to about 5 degrees Celsius, not much warmer than that on cold nights because we can't afford to heat it. And at the back is some more aeoniums. It's that aeonium vela. We've just run out of space on the side where I'm growing the rest of the aeoniums. And then this butchered plant is Impatiens tuberosa, a pink flowering Impatiens, and every tip has been cut off because I'm currently rooting cuttings inside and multiplying this plant because it's a really nice addition, and that bright pink colour goes really, really well with plants like the Phytolacca and that colour on Colocasia redemption. And I've grown the orange form, Impatiens auricoma cross bicordata, for so many years, so it's nice to try something a bit different. Below that is some Neoregelia Bromeliads, just a couple more. This is Cecropia polystacca. This is a rainforest tree that I've grown from seed. This one would be in the propagator for a bit of added protection because they're super rare, super hard to find and quite slow growing initially, especially here in the UK. But this one's grown a bit too tall, so it's out here. I do have a couple in the propagator as well. Now it's called the white Cecropia because the bottom of the leaves have this silvery white colour. And this leaf is developing its lobed pattern. As it matures, it gets beautiful, really deep lobes. And it's one of the trees I use in the Eden Project and at Kew Gardens to create the canopy. And it looks amazing. So if I can get this to grow in a large pot in our UK tropical style garden, it's going to be an absolute stunner. And just here are Semponiums. Now these plants are crosses, hybrids, very, very recently introduced to market between aeoniums, which is those large-leaved succulents at the top there, and sempervivums, which are the more traditionally grown kind of hen and chicks or house leeks that you see. And by hybridizing them, one, they get hybrid vigor, so they've got the best genetics of both of the parent plants, the intergenetic parent plants, so they're really vigorous growers. And two, you get the size of the aeonium and the colours of the aeonium, but with potential hardiness of house leeks, which can survive outside beneath snow and frosts. Now I've got 3 different cultivars here, one of which won Chelsea Plant of the Year last year. So this one is Semponium Destiny, I think? No, Semponium Sienna. Now this one flushes bright red in sunlight, and you can see it's coloured up slightly here. I'm growing this one on, and I'll be adding that to the tropical style garden next year. This is Semponium Diamond. I think it lives up to its name. It's a really nice rosette form with pointed leaves. And this one is the plant that won Chelsea Plant of the year just gone. It is Semponium Destiny. Now this one's nice because the leaves will flush this really dark purple colour in full sun, but in winter that coloration drops away a bit, and they will all grow relatively large. Now I believe that all 3 of these hybrids came from one pollination, one cross-pollination, and this is the variability in the seed batch that came up, and each is now being cultivated and sold as its own cultivar in the industry. And I think these are going to be really, really popular, and I'm hoping to add a few of these to the Grow Paradise shop next year, because if they will grow as big as aeoniums but be as tough and resilient as sempervivums, then I think we should all give them a go. Now, I've got them up on the top shelf here because I'm trying to encourage some of these brighter colours to form, and we'll see if that happens. And then in the Vitopod propagator, we had a look at this a couple of weeks ago. We've got my Abutilon Red Tiger, where I snapped the branches and tried to do some impromptu cuttings. We'll see if that pays off. We've got Begonia pedata feeder leaf cuttings coming on here, and then loads of our Colocasia redemption plants, which again revert to green when they don't get much light. These are just kind of staying nice and toasty in here for the winter months. Now, if I move this lid over and make sure it doesn't fall in, you'll see another one of those Polystachys or Cecropia polystachya, the white Cecropia. And you can see how the leaf form has changed as it's matured. So the first leaves to come out were almost whole. Then the next leaves started to form some of that lobe formation, then slightly more here, and it will just get more and more clear and defined as the plant matures, and hopefully next year we're going to get to enjoy some really, really tropical foliage. And then Justicia carnea, the standard form of that yellow flowering one at the back. So this is the pink flowering one that I've been growing in the garden for many years. This is some homegrown plants being propagated, ready for the nursery shop next year. What have we missed? I don't think I stuck to the order that I said I was going to do, left to right. I always do this. I'm distracted by colourful things. Musa basjoo plants. I've currently got a multi-buy special offer on these, where if you buy 3, you get a discount on every single plant. And some Fatsia polycarpa. Now this is a really, really, really nice leaf form of Fatsia. But these plants are just a bit too small for me to be happy to sell them online, so I'm growing them on a bit so that you'll receive healthy, strong plants in 2024. These ferns are tree ferns, New Zealand tree ferns, and they're young, but these will grow very, very quickly and will grow a trunk in a year or 2. They're much faster growing than Dicksonia antarctica, that more commonly grown tree fern that we see. These are Cyathea cooperi. And I've got some younger ones here, and then these are the ones that are currently available on the Grow Paradise shop, or they will be when the shop reopens. And this is 3 pots of cuttings of Euphorbia cross pasteuri and the cultivar John Phillips. Now, all of you have been asking me, am I going to be growing this in 2024? Will it be available in the online shop? The answer is yes. I can now confirm these have rooted and there will be young plants available. Just in front of that, you can see our next batch of aeonium cuttings. The great thing with aeoniums is you can cut them and then let that fresh cut callus over for a few days. So you don't have to rush if you're busy. You can just leave them there to callus over. I've got a pot of Puya alpestris, the sapphire Puya, and these are ready for potting on. Now let's go underneath the benches and see what I'm growing. Colocasia pink china, hardy, but these are stock plants that I just keep inside of the greenhouse. Couple more Abutilon that I've cut back hard, and I'm just keeping here to keep them frost-free and dry, so they'll recover quickly in spring, like I say. I've got a Tetrapanax, doesn't need to be in the greenhouse at all, but I'm contemplating giving this one away, so keep your eyes out for that. There's my sugarcane, purple sugarcane. Again, I've cut it right back. I just keep it in here because it keeps it frost-free, and I keep it nice and dry through winter, and it quickly recovers when I plant it out in spring and summer. This bizarre looking leaf is another Abutilon. You can see why they call them the flowering maple. That leaf is so maple-like. Now this one is Pictum thomsonii, and it's nice because it's a bit of a scrambly one. It works well tied against the trellis. These blotchy variegated leaves, and then I think it's red or yellow flowers on it. And then there's the parent plant of my Justicia carnea. Again, cut to a height so that I can just tuck it underneath the bench there through the winter months, and it doesn't take up too much space. And in winter it doesn't do a lot of growing, so I'm not worried about it growing and touching the bench there. And under here are some more Bromeliads. There's a Bilbergia, an Aechmea, and then some larger Aeoniums. Now last year I experimented and left so many Aeoniums out in the garden and they didn't survive. So this year, this is a great spot for them because it's tucked underneath the propagator, so they don't get moisture here, they stay dry, and it's by our heater. So all moisture is blown off them on cold nights. And here, they love it. They keep growing. They seem to like it cool and a little bit shady in winter, but they all lose their colour because they're not getting enough sunlight. Now I'm just going to show you some of the bigger plants as I move them back into the greenhouse, and you'll see how I struggle with space. But it's okay. Where there's a will, there's a way, and we'll figure it out. Just putting the lid back on the propagator there before I forget. So we'll start with the Brugmansia. Now, these Brugmansia are as tall as me now, still growing in a pot, because as I say, I want to add a lot more flowers to the Grow Paradise garden next year. So I've got the new Charles Grimaldi hybrid ones that I showed you earlier, plus these mature plants that I've been growing for a couple of years. And I've grown them as single stemmed plants, so that hopefully the flowers will be up nice and high. So they just live at the back there. So it gives me room sort of to come in and check on the seedlings and the propagator. Another one here. This one's a bit bigger. I might take some cuttings from this. And another Abutilon. Smashed it into the camera. This one is Abutilon Lily, and it has this nice red flower. The good thing with keeping them protected in winter is they flower all winter long. Not at the rate they do in spring and summer, but it's nice to come in the greenhouse and see a bit of colour. And then that Musa cheesemanii I told you about earlier. This one's nice. It's got much narrower leaves than Musa basju, with a silvery underside and a silvery blue stem. So I'm going to put this into a much bigger pot next year and sort of grow it as a specimen plant in the Grow Paradise garden. I'm also hoping to add some very new and very colourful bananas to the garden next year, and I'm hoping that all of you will be able to as well, but you'll have to keep your eyes peeled on the Grow Paradise shop for that. Hopefully you found this video useful, and at the very least it's given you some ideas for tropical style plants that you can add to your garden in the coming years, and it's definitely got me excited for next year's growing season. It does every time I come in here, especially when I see all this foliage and all these flowers. Now, this video was actually requested by a user on our social forum, Mikey Mike, who asked for a tour of the greenhouse setup. So there it is. In a coming video, I'll be doing an in-depth guide to how I heat my greenhouse, including some of the smart tech that I've utilised to automate a lot of the heating so that I'm not having to worry about it on those cold winter nights. Now, if you want to join this social network, it's a free social network that we've created for gardeners who love growing similar plants to you and me. Completely free to sign up. Just go to growparadise.social. There's forums and there's community groups where you can find your special group, whether you love growing aeoniums, succulents, propagating plants, growing in a greenhouse, growing tree ferns or bananas. Whatever it is that you love growing, there's a group for you on there. Thank you so much for watching. Leave in the comments if you enjoyed this video, if you've got any more questions, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.